Welcome to another episode of Deep Dive Podcast. Hope you are doing well and taking good care of yourself. We go beyond the headlines and uncover the truth behind real stories, real crimes, and real consequences. Let's move towards today's topic.
Okay, I want you to imagine something for a moment. Just try to picture yourself standing right in the heart of the old city of Amritsar.
Right.
Close your eyes and just think about the sensory overload. It's chaotic, but in this really, really vibrant way.
Yeah, you can almost smell it. You've got the street food, the rickshaws.
Exactly. The frying oil from jalebis and samosas is mixing with, the diesel fumes, and you can hear the constant honking, the shopkeepers shouting.
And then over all of that, you get the prayers from the Golden Temple just kind of drifting over the rooftops.
It's a place that is just so alive with history, and you're only the few kilometers from Jallianwala Bagh.
A place everyone knows. It's a landmark, a memorial. It's in every single textbook.
But history, it has this strange way of hiding in plain sight, doesn't it?
It really does, because while Jallianwala Bagh is the headline story, the deep dive we're doing today, it's about the footnote, the one that was aggressively torn out of the book.
That is the perfect way to put it. Because if you turn off that main bustling street and you go down this one narrow lane, everything changes.
The whole atmosphere shifts.
It does. The noise just seems to drop away. And you find yourself standing in front of this building, and the locals, they instinctively cross the street to avoid it.
And it looks, on the surface, like a standard colonial structure.
Totally. Red bricks, high arches, that very specific British Raj aesthetic. But something is just deeply wrong with it.
The windows.
The windows, they aren't just closed or shuttered, they're bricked up, solid.
It's like a visual scar on the street. It's this architectural anomaly that is just screaming at you to keep out.
And it has a local name that tells you everything you need to know about its reputation. They call it Kaali Kothi.
The Black Mansion.
And if you talk to the locals, I'm not talking about officials or tour guides, but, the old folks, the grandmother buying her vegetables.
The people who have been there for generations.
Yes. They tell you a very specific legend. They say that when the wind dies down at night, you don't just hear the city anymore. You hear moaning. You hear prayers coming from inside those walls.
Now, usually when we hear about a haunted house, that's where the story gets a bit, well, you roll your eyes.
Right. You think of ghost stories, folklore, things to scare kids. But today's deep dive is different.
It's fundamentally different. We are not here to talk about the paranormal, not in the sense of spooks and specters. We're looking at a stack of sources. A suppressed YouTube documentary, archival police records, oral histories that all argue this haunting is actually the echo of a very real, very specific historical atrocity.
We're here to uncover the story of a man named Amarjit Singh. And I just want to be clear with you, listening right now, this isn't just a ghost story about some guy who died in the 1940s.
Yeah.
This is a story about how institutions handle dissent, about how history gets deliberately erased, and about the terrifying concept of bureaucratic murder.
It's a case study in what happens when the machinery of the state turns on a single individual. And then, and this is maybe even more frightening, tries to just press delete on the evidence.
It makes you ask what happens to the people who fall into the cracks when power changes hands.
Exactly.
So let's unpack this. The source material takes us right back to the protagonist of this whole tragedy.
Yeah.
And what's so striking, to me at least, is that Amarjit Singh wasn't some famous general. He wasn't a politician like Nehru or Gandhi.
Not at all. And that's what makes his profile so compelling. Amarjit was a 30-year-old farmer.
Just a farmer.
He lived in a tiny village called Philar in the Jalandhar district. He had a wife, Gurpreet Kaur, and a little 3-year-old son, Balwinder. He was, by all accounts, an ordinary man.
An ordinary man in an extraordinary time. This is 1944. The Quit India movement is in full swing. World War II is still raging.
Yeah.
So he clearly wasn't keeping his head down. What was he doing that got him on a British intelligence list?
Well, the sources describe him as a man who was fueled by very local grievances. And this is key, I think. Revolutions often start local,
Right. It's not about the big picture politics in London for him.
No, it's about what he's seeing right in front of him. He saw land being seized from his neighbors to support the war effort. He saw village elders being disrespected, being mistreated by the local police.
And he decided he had to do something.
He took action. He started organizing these secret nightly meetings in the village.
That is incredibly dangerous stuff for 1944.
Extremely. He was mobilizing locals, gathering what weapons they could find, old hunting rifles, farming tools, anything. He was building a resistance cell from the ground up.
You have to remember the context here. The British Empire is stretched to its breaking point in 44.
Absolutely. They were paranoid. So they saw every local organizer, every Amarjit Singh, not as just a nuisance, but as a potential spark that could set off a massive uprising they simply could not afford to fight.
And that paranoia, that fear, is what brings our antagonist into the story.
Yes. The documents introduce us to a British officer stationed in Jalandhar, Captain Robert Mackenzie.
And the description of this guy, I mean, it's intense.
It's straight out of a noir film, but it's backed up by records from the Punjab State Archives. He's described as having ice blue eyes and a stiff mustache, the whole classic colonial officer look.
Right, you can picture him immediately.
But psychologically, the source argues he was. He was just ruthless. He had this visceral hatred for rebellion. He didn't see it as a political difference of opinion. He saw it as a disease, a contagion that had to be excised before it could spread.
So in February 1944, Amarjit's name lands on a list of agitators on Mackenzie's desk.
And Mackenzie sees it, and he decides, this is the one. I'm going to make an example of him.
He doesn't want a trial. He doesn't want a martyr.
He wants a disappearance. And this brings us to the morning of March 12th, 1944.
The sources paint a very vivid picture. It's 5 in the morning.
A thick, foggy morning in Philor. Visibility is almost zero, and the raid is it's brutal. 6 soldiers kick the door in, no knock, no warrant.
Just immediate, overwhelming violence.
They drag Amarjit straight out of his bed. He resists, of course he fights back. And a soldier smashes him in the face with the butt of a rifle.
And his wife and son are right there. They're watching all of this.
Yes. His wife, Gurpreet, she tries to intervene. She's screaming at them, and a soldier just shoves her hard against a wall. The little boy, Balwinder, is crying in the corner. The whole scene is designed for maximum terror.
To terrorize the family, the neighbors, anyone who might think of joining him?
Exactly. They throw Amarjit into the back of a waiting truck. Now, legally, even in a colonial state, the truck should be heading for the district jail in Jalandhar.
Right. There's a process, there's paperwork, a system. Even a colonial system has rules, a veneer of justice.
Precisely. But the truck doesn't go to the jail. It takes a different turn, it diverts, it heads for the Kaali Kothi.
So let's pause and really define what this place is. We're calling it the Black Mansion, but what was its function?
In modern intelligence language, we would call this a black site. It is an off-the-books, unofficial detention center, and it's designed specifically to bypass the entire legal system.
So the goal isn't justice. It's not even about containment.
No, the goal is intelligence extraction and, frankly, to psychologically break people. By taking a prisoner there, you deny them the status of a political prisoner. They can't become martyrs because officially they don't exist. Nobody knows where they are.
That's a terrifying distinction. If you're in an official jail, there's a record, a number. Your family can find you, lawyers can file petitions, but here, you're just gone.
You are erased from the world, and the very first thing they do to Amarjit when he arrives at Kaali Kothi is strip him of his identity. He is no longer Amarjit Singh. They assign him a number.
Number 30.
Number 30.
And that's not just for, like, bookkeeping, is it?
No. It's a psychological weapon. It's a classic dehumanization technique. You take away a man's name, you sever his connection to his family, his community, his sense of self. You turn him into a statistic.
And they put him in a cell.
A cell that the sources describe as barely a closet. 2 meters long, 1.5 meters wide. No windows. Just a single vent high up on the ceiling. Damp walls, a bucket, and a cold cement floor.
And then the torture begins. The source actually calls it an experiment.
Which implies a system, a cold, calculated progression.
Yeah.
This wasn't just a guard losing his temper and beating a prisoner.
This was methodical.
Highly methodical. The source outlines a month-long escalation designed to break him. Week 1 was starvation, almost no food, just enough water to keep him alive. They're weakening the body, making the brain foggy, making it harder to think, harder to resist.
Okay, and week 2?
Week 2, they introduced sleep deprivation and forced standing. He wasn't allowed to sit down. If he did, he was beaten.
Sleep deprivation. That's one of the most effective ways to break someone's will. It induces psychosis.
It blurs the line between what's real and what's a nightmare. But week 3, Week 3 is where the cruelty becomes architectural. They move him to something called a cramp
A
cell.
cramp cell? What is that?
It's a cell that's been built with very specific dimensions. It's too low to stand up straight, and it's too narrow to lie down fully.
Oh my God.
So you're forced to either crouch or kneel constantly. It puts your body in a state of perpetual stress and agony. Your muscles never get to rest. Your joints are screaming. It's designed to make your own body your torture chamber.
And by week 4?
By week 4, the psychological breakdown was beginning. The guards' reports, which were later uncovered, noted that he was muttering the names of his wife and son, Gurpreet and Balwinder, over and over. He was praying constantly to Waheguru.
And this is the crucial part of his character, isn't it? He didn't break.
Oh.
He didn't give them names.
According to all the sources, no. He never gave up the names of the other villagers in his resistance cell.
And we know this because of a witness.
Yes. This is a critical piece of the puzzle. There was a gardener who worked at the facility, a man named Harnam Singh.
The gardener. The person who's always there but nobody ever pays attention to. The invisible observer.
Exactly. Intelligence agencies are notorious for forgetting about the support staff. They just assume they're part of the furniture.
So what did he see?
Years later, in 1962, Harnam Singh told his grandson this story. He talked about Prisoner 30. He described seeing a man who was basically a skeleton, covered in lice, but who had, and this is the quote, burning eyes.
Burning eyes, wow.
He said the man looked like he was on the verge of death, but he still refused to break. That image of the burning eyes it tells you everything about his spirit. That inner fire was still there, even as his body was failing.
So they couldn't break his will.
They couldn't. So they broke his body further. In April 1945, they moved him to yet another cell. This one was waterlogged, constantly flooded with inches of foul water.
So he's now dealing with skin infections, trench foot.
His feet were literally rotting. But it's in this cell that he finds a way to leave a record. He starts scratching messages into the damp plaster of the walls.
The writing on the wall. We use it as a metaphor, but for him it was literal.
It was his only testimony. The source details the specific inscriptions that were found years later. Waheguru Meher Karo.
God have mercy.
Yes, he wrote the names of his wife and son, Gurpreet Balwinder. He scratched the date, 1945 April, and then perhaps most defiantly of all, he scratched the word Azadi.
Freedom.
Freedom.
He is writing freedom on the wall of a dark, damp cell while his body is literally rotting away. I can't even imagine that level of resilience.
It's a testament to the human spirit. But now we have to move to the darkest chapter of this story. We need to fast forward.
To August 1947.
August 1947, independence, the very thing he was fighting for.
But while India is gaining independence, Punjab is on fire.
It's in flames. The partition is happening. There's chaos everywhere. Riots, mass migration, trains filled with bodies arriving at the stations. The civil administration has effectively collapsed in many areas.
And in the middle of all that chaos, the British are packing up.
They're burning files. They're destroying evidence of their colonial rule. This is the cleanup.
There's an actual policy,
Yes.
right? Operation Legacy.
Right. Exactly. Initiatives designed specifically to destroy any incriminating documents before the handover. And Kaali Kothi is one of those loose ends, a very dangerous loose end.
So Captain Mackenzie gets his orders. He's to return to England in September.
But he has a problem. A big one.
The prisoners.
The source states there were still 6 prisoners left in the facility's basement. 3 had already died over the years from the torture and neglect. They were buried in unmarked graves in the fields nearby.
The 3 were still alive.
3 were still alive, including Amarjit Singh, number 30.
So Mackenzie has a choice. He could just release them. I mean, it's independence. Their side won.
Or he could transfer them to the new Indian authorities.
But he can't do either of those things, can he?
Think about it from his perspective. If he releases them, he's releasing witnesses. Witnesses to torture, to illegal detention, to war crimes.
Witnesses to the existence of Kaali Kothi itself.
Exactly. And if he transfers them, it raises all sorts of awkward diplomatic questions. It exposes the black side. Mackenzie is a career man. He wants to go home and get a promotion, not be hauled before a tribunal.
So he chooses a third option.
And this, for me, is the ultimate crime of the whole story.
September 15th, 1947, 2 o'clock in the morning. Take us there.
3 soldiers go down into the basement. They lock the heavy iron doors to the cells. And this detail is just so deliberately cruel. They either break the keys off inside the locks or they smash the mechanisms with tools.
So they can never be opened.
Yeah.
Not even by someone with another set of keys.
They are permanently sealed. Then they go upstairs. They seal the main door to the building. Mackenzie pays off some local collaborators to brick up all the windows and put a fresh coat of whitewash on the building.
And they file a report.
They file a final report stating the building is disused and condemned, and then they leave.
It just leaves.
They get on their ships and they sail home to England.
Leaving 3 men alive, locked in a basement, with no food, no water, and absolutely no way out.
While the country outside was literally celebrating its freedom, while fireworks were going off and Nehru was making his tryst with destiny speech in Delhi, these men were sealed in the dark, waiting for a meal that would never, ever come.
It is bureaucratic murder. It's the ultimate act of administrative evil.
And it just shows how these moments of transition, of power shifting, leave these gaps, these administrative voids where atrocities like this can just be buried.
I can't. I mean, the sheer terror of that, the slow realization that nobody's coming for you.
And for a while, the locals did hear things. The source material mentions that in those first few weeks, people living nearby heard faint moaning. They heard pounding on the doors.
And then eventually silence fell.
But the story wasn't over. It goes dormant, but it doesn't die.
Not at all. The truth has a way of resurfacing. Often through nature. We jump forward to 1958.
The floods.
Massive floods in Amritsar. The water is so powerful it actually cracks the foundation of the Kaali Kothi.
And a group of local boys find a hole. A crack in the basement wall, right at ground level, caused by the floodwaters. Being curious kids, they get a torch and they look inside.
And what they saw is just haunting.
They saw 3 skeletons huddled together against a wall. The source describes it as if they were holding on to each other in their final moments for comfort.
And they found the tag.
Yes. On the wrist bones of one of the skeletons, there was a small metal band, and etched into it was the number 30.
Prisoner 30, a mark sheet.
And on the wall behind them, they could just make out the scratch marks, the word Azadi.
So the police are called. They see this. Now, surely the story comes out. This is 1958. This is independent India. These men are martyrs. This should be front page news.
You would think so, wouldn't you? But this is where we see the apathy of the state kick in. Or maybe it's just the desire not to rock the boat.
What was the official response?
Dismissal. They sealed up the hole in the foundation. The official police report claimed they were just old bones, probably unidentified victims of the partition riots, and that identification was impossible.
So case closed.
Case closed. It's so much easier to blame the chaos of partition than to admit that a colonial war crime was missed by the new administration for over a decade.
It's politically inconvenient.
Yeah.
It would mean admitting failure. It would mean having to dig into who collaborated with Mackenzie.
Exactly. So the silence resumes.
But the building wasn't done talking. We have to jump forward again to 1975.
To the emergency, under Indira Gandhi, the government was looking to reuse a lot of these old colonial buildings for administrative purposes.
And an engineer gets sent to inspect Kaali Kothi.
A man named Harpal Singh Pannu. He was sent to see if the building could be renovated.
And he's the first person to officially go inside since 1947. He breaks the seal.
He does, and his diary entries from that day, which the documentary source cites extensively, are terrifying. He talks about the air. Heavy, stale air that hadn't moved in almost 30 years.
And a smell.
A smell of rot that had just lingered for decades. He said they had to break a rusted lock to get into one of the cells.
And the walls.
He wrote that the scratch marks on the walls were so deep, they looked like they'd been made by an animal. Like claw marks. And of course, he saw the bones scattered on the floor.
That must have been overwhelming.
It was. He wrote that one of the junior members of his team actually threw up on the spot. It was that physically repulsive and tragic.
So he files a report, right?
He does. Pannu recommended immediate demolition. He said the building was structurally unsound and, frankly, a crime scene.
And what happened?
The report was buried, the file was shelved, whether it was just administrative apathy or maybe even a bit of superstition and fear of what they'd found, nothing happened. Again.
This pattern of suppression is just infuriating. Every time the truth tries to bubble up, someone pushes it back down.
Which brings us to the 1980s and a historian named Dr. Amandeep Kaur.
A professor at Punjab University. And she decides to look for the paper trail.
She goes to the source. She travels to London, to the India office records. She wants to find the British side of the story.
And she finds the smoking gun.
She finds it. A memo from Captain Mackenzie himself, dated September 1947.
And what did it say?
The language is just chillingly bureaucratic. It doesn't say kill the prisoners. It says, quote, facilities must be closed, permanent resolution, no transfers.
Permanent resolution.
Yeah.
That is the most cynical euphemism.
For live burial, it's the language of a man washing his hands of a problem he created.
So Dr. Carr tries to publish this.
She does. And academic journals refuse. They tell her the research is too sensitive, that it could be damaging to diplomatic relations between India and the UK.
And then this story takes an even darker turn.
A very dark turn. In 1987, Dr. Amandeep Kaur was found dead in her home.
The official cause of death.
A heart attack. She was middle-aged, is certainly possible, but here is the deeply suspicious part. Her study was wiped clean.
What do you mean wiped clean?
Her office, her home, all of her research notes, the photocopies she'd made in London, her draft articles, all of it was gone, missing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That suggests this wasn't just about protecting the reputation of a long-dead British officer.
It implies an active, ongoing suppression. It suggests that even 40 years later, there were powerful interests, maybe protecting the names of collaborators or just trying to avoid a scandal, who wanted the story of Kaali Kothi to stay dead and buried.
And all this time, while the files are being buried and the historians are being silenced, there's a family still waiting.
Amarjit's wife, Gurpreet Kaur, she waited for him until she died in the 1960s. The source tells this heartbreaking story about how she would go to the Golden Temple every single Baisakhi to pray for his return.
Not knowing is its own special kind of torture.
It is. Psychologists call it ambiguous loss. You can't grieve properly because there's no body, there's no closure, there's just this open wound, this question mark that lasts for a lifetime.
And the son, Balwinder, the little boy who saw his father dragged away.
He grew up with that trauma just encoded in his memory, and the source describes this pivotal moment in 1985, right after he'd been to his mother's funeral.
He visits the building.
He goes and just stands outside the Kaali Kothi, and that night, he has this incredibly vivid dream. He sees his father in a dark room, writing on the wall in blood, and the words are, "I am here."
It's like the psychic weight of that place finally reached out to him.
It's what it feels like. And inspired by this dream, Balwinder actually tried to take legal action. He went to the police, tried to find a lawyer, but just like before, with no hard evidence, he just hit a dead end. The legal system doesn't run on dreams.
So we have the history, we have the cover-up, and now we have the haunting. The source talks about modern-day encounters. As an analyst, how do you approach these ghost stories?
I treat them as sociological data points, even if you're a complete skeptic. And we should always remain skeptical. These accounts tell you about the local fear, the trauma associated with the place. The ghost is the community's collective memory refusing to let the story die.
So take the 2005 incident.
Right? A college student, Jasprit, camps outside with some friends on a dare.
Never a good idea. Teenagers and haunted houses.
A very bad idea. He reported hearing a voice. And it wasn't just vague moaning. He said it was a clear voice, in Punjabi, saying, "Wahi Guru Meher Karo, get me out."
Get me out! The same thing Amarjit must have been screaming in 1947 when that lock turned for the last time.
Exactly. And then you have the demolition attempt in 2018, which is just fascinating because it involves heavy machinery and a total non-believer.
The contractor, Gurmeet Singh.
Right. He dismisses all the superstitions. He comes in saying, "I'm just here to do a job." He brings in excavators, bulldozers.
And day one, things start going wrong.
Immediately, the machines keep breaking down. Workers suddenly develop high fevers within hours of being on the site. On day two, the machines near the basement just won't start. The engines turn over and die.
So day three is the climax.
Yes. Gurmeet gets frustrated. He grabs a sledgehammer himself. He's going to start smashing the wall by hand, and that is when he hears it.
The voice.
A loud, clear voice right next to his ear that says, "Get me out."
And this guy, this tough contractor, he just breaks.
He suffered a massive panic attack, had to be hospitalized. He abandoned the project immediately, refused to ever go back near the site.
It's incredible. It's almost like the building itself refuses to be destroyed until its story is told.
That's a very poetic way of putting it, and I think it's spot on. If you demolish the building without acknowledging the bodies, without telling the story, you're just completing Mackenzie's cover-up. You're erasing the last piece of evidence forever.
So what did the authorities do?
They gave up. In 2019, their solution wasn't to investigate it or to memorialize it. It was to build a 3-meter-high wall all the way around it.
Just hide it. Out of sight, out of mind.
Precisely. They put up a sign that says, "Dangerous building entry prohibited." They literally walled off the history.
But you can't wall off the truth forever. In 2021, a journalist starts digging again.
An independent journalist named Simranjit Kaur, and she finds the most important link of all, Amarjit's grandson, Jagdeep.
Balwinder's son, the third generation carrying this story.
Yes. And Jagdeep has kept this old trunk of his grandfather's things, and inside it was Amarjit's turban and a diary from 1944.
The diary. This is his voice. The voice we've been missing this whole time. What did it say?
There's one entry that it breaks your heart, Amarjit wrote. I saw my son walk today. I want him to grow up in a free country.
Oh, man. He wanted his son to live in a free India, and he paid for that freedom by being buried alive after it had already been won.
And even with all of this, with the diary, with the testimony, Simranjit's documentary was rejected by film festivals. They called it too controversial.
So she did what you do now. She uploaded it to YouTube.
She did, which is the source material we're looking at today. It's just sitting there, gathering dust in the digital archives, just like the official file gathered dust in the physical ones.
So here we are. The building is still standing, walled off. The writing is still on those walls in the basement.
The word azadi, freedom.
It just forces you to reconsider the cost of that word, doesn't it? We celebrate Independence Day with flags and parades, but for Amarjit Singh, independence meant being sealed in a tomb.
It creates this awful paradox. A man fights for freedom, is tortured for it, survives the entire war, and is then killed by the very exit of the colonial power he was fighting. It complicates the clean narrative of independence.
It wasn't a clean break. It was a messy, bloody, awful tear.
And the ghost story, the haunting.
What's the takeaway there?
I think the source makes a really profound point. The ghost isn't a monster. It's history refusing to be silenced. When the official channels fail, when police reports are faked, when files are burned, when historians are silenced, the truth has to find another way out.
And sometimes that way is through the walls themselves.
The scratches on the wall are the testimony. They're the only reliable witness statement we have left.
And we have to mention the grandson, Jagdeep.
We do. He's a teacher now,
Yeah.
and he teaches this story to his students. He's keeping the memory alive.
And that, in a way, feels like the real victory here. As long as someone is telling the story, Mackenzie's permanent resolution ultimately failed.
It did. The body was destroyed, but the memory survived.
So what does this all mean for us, for you, the listener? What do you take away from this?
I think it challenges us to look at our own cities differently. Every old building has a history. Most aren't this tragic, of course. But how many other Kaali Kothis are out there?
That is a chilling thought.
How many heroes are missing from our textbooks just because their files were successfully burned? We rely so much on written records, on official history. But this story proves that the official record is often a curated lie. The truth is in the margins. It's in the oral history of a gardener, the nightmares of a son.
It makes you wonder what's hidden behind a bricked-up window in your own town.
It absolutely should. It should make all of us question the silence.
We're going to leave you with that image today. A busy street in Amritsar, cars honking, people going about their lives. And right there, hidden behind a high modern wall, is a silent building. And deep in its basement, in the dark, the word Azadi is still scratched into the stone.
A silent scream that finally today is being heard.
This was all for today. Stay happy, stay safe, comment your views down below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.